Okay, so my original idea, when I first started thinking about what I wanted to do for my capstone, uh, thinking back even 3 years ago, I had always kind of thought that I would do some sort of coaching, like basketball coaching, um, and I never really actually considered anything else until a few months ago, when I actually changed my idea, and I changed it to like some sort of career exploration where I was actually gonna shadow four different people in four completely different professions, and that would not only give me four different possible careers, but it would just teach me, even if I wasn't interested in that specific career, it would give me an idea of how to just deal with people and interact with people in a workplace and how to be a good leader. My expectations were, I was unsure kind of if it was going to actually directly affect my college major and what I wanted to do going forward. I was afraid that if I was shadowing those people, that their coworkers and people that they were doing business with, that they maybe necessarily wouldn't, I guess, respect me, since I'm just a high school student just following somebody around. And I wanted to learn, but at the same time, I wanted to learn on that same level where I would be shown the respect of the person that I was shadowing. So the first part of my capstone, that's my first mentor. His name's J.D. Willis. He's actually a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, and he used to work for my dad, so that's how we are connected to him. And he retired from the Air Force a few years ago, and he owns a Chick-fil-A in Crystal Lake, Illinois. And it actually took him several years to actually get ownership from Chick-fil-A because they do thorough background checks and stuff. So my dad and I actually flew down to Chicago a couple of months ago, and he picked us up at the airport, and we stayed with him. And that whole first night, we went to the restaurant, then we went back to his house. That's actually the restaurant. The first night, we threw a celebration for one of his workers, and we talked a lot about how he got to where he was and how it's a completely different shift from working in the military to owning a small business like that. But he talked about kind of what made him want to get into the Chick-fil-A business, and the thing he kept bringing up was it's called the Cathy family, the family that owns Chick-fil-A, and he said the family is so they put people first and they care so much about other people, and that's what made him want to be a part of that team. And so that night, we actually had a business meeting to go to the next morning, and he actually had me do some research for what his role was going to be in. He was sponsoring an event, the Chick-fil-A was, so he had me do some research for what his role was going to be the next day. And we went to the meeting the next day. We went to another meeting with four of his colleagues who all are in business in their own right. And that was just kind of like a Bible study where I got to talk with them and kind of pick all of their brains. And then we went to the restaurant. We served customers. I got to work a little bit. I talked to customers. And it was just a really great kicking off point for my capstone. The second part that's Donnie Iverson. He's actually a CAK parent. He has, I think, 2 daughters who are cheerleaders. And so he went to a lot of my basketball games. That's how we knew him. And he works closely with a company called Merrill Lynch. It's a financial planning company, and it's in downtown Knoxville. And so for a couple afternoons, I went down there and I hung out in his office. And we talked a lot about kind of the way he got to where he is now, and school and everything, and original jobs that he had. I got to sit in on a meeting with a client that he has come in every week and gives advice to, and that meeting was actually about, I think his wife passed away, and he was just wondering what to do with his finances there. And I also got to listen in on a couple phone calls, and then we just talked about basic, I guess, kind of etiquette when you're looking for a job and what what it is employers are looking for and what stands out. The third part was actually a few weeks ago. My mom and I, that's my pastor right there. He actually a year ago moved to Cleveland, Tennessee. He used to be the pastor at our church, and we formed a really good relationship with them. That's their family. Like, they would come over to our house and stuff, and we were very close with them. And about a year ago, he switched churches, and that's his church at Cleveland, Tennessee now. And so my mom and I drove up really early one morning, and she dropped me off, and I basically spent the whole morning until probably like 1 o'clock just with him, going through both services. I was with him in between the two church services, going around in Sunday school classes, checking on them. I served communion to a class, and I helped out during both services, and it was awesome to see how he was always second in everything he was doing, and everyone in the church, everyone he was helped serving and lead, he put them before himself. The fourth part of my capstone, that's my mentor, Mike Kelly. He's the athletic director at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. There's actually, I think, 600 of these high schools around the world. This particular one is in Memphis. So my second cousin is actually a teacher at this school, and that's how we got connected to Mr. Kelly. And my dad and I, a couple of weeks ago, drove down to Memphis, and we spent the night at my cousin's house. And then the next morning, I got up at like 6, and we drove, and I met with Mr. Kelly, and I spent it was a Friday, the whole school day with him. That's him and the soccer coach. We got to go to a meeting off campus where they're planning out a whole new building. That's what the new building's going to look like. I actually got to look at the designs for it. It's going to be like $12 million. That's one of the locker rooms. And it was with, I think his name was Gary Fleming. I got to sit in and talk with him, the head architect, and like 4 of his people that work for him that were architects, and also the construction people and people representing the school. So it was like 12 to 14 people all there, and I was just a part of that meeting. So it was awesome to see how so many people come together. It's been a project like 3 or 4 years in the making, and all those people come together just to do one project like this. So that was super beneficial. There's supposed to be a last slide there, but basically it talks about the impact this had on me. If I could do one thing over again, it would just be, I had a lot going on with basketball and everything towards the beginning of this year. So I wasn't able to make this my main priority until February when basketball ended. But I definitely would have started probably this summer, and it would have made it a lot easier on myself and my parents just in coordinating everything and getting the shadowing opportunities lined up. And then I would say the number one lesson I learned from this is that if you're not truly passionate about what you're doing, and if you don't love it, then you're never going to be as good as you can be if you're doing something that you love. So that's what I took away from that. And then moving forward, I'm actually enrolled at UT Knoxville next year, and I'm actually planning to study business. So this had a really big impact on me. So thank you.